Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the NRG series Legacy Trial. Today, I am your host, Razor Clark, my co-host here, Drake Sasser. And Drake, we are in round number 2. It is some exciting stuff going on, but quickly, we want to talk about our last event of the year before we get down to our future match area. And that's going to be in Elmhurst, Illinois, November 1st and 2nd. We have a Saturday Team 10K Showdown, Standard Sealed Modern, Sunday 10K Modern Showdown. Come out and play the last NRG series event of 2025. We'd love to see you there. And the winner of both those events, including the whole team on Saturday, is going to go to our end of the year championship event. And speaking of that, let's look at our players to watch as we have some people who are really trying to round up some points, Drake, before we head on out to the end of the year and see who's going to battle it out for over $20,000 in prizes.
Yeah, we saw Raja obviously in round 1. Now he's 0-1, and that's tough, but he can battle back. You know, he's in a good spot after his yesterday's second place performance at the Showdown. And of course, we just talked about the last event of the year where there's going to be a lot of points given out there as well. So a little bit of rallying needed from him and Alden Cates. The rest of our players to watch, 1-0. We're going to be seeing Garrick Alford among the mix, facing down a good friend of mine who used to battle back in the SCG days, Peter DeBergen. But all these players off to a great start, 1-0 in the Legacy event. A lot of points on the line here, a lot of points on the line next weekend, where we're going to see, really, it's like the event of the year, right? All of these invites are going to get locked in, and we're really going to see the NRG Championship take shape. And then from there, you know, the testing grind begins for the multi-format spectacular event that we put on every single year. And Garrick, a member of Team Flex Slot, got to see him on the graphic for the next event. A lot of those members going to be present at the NRG Championship as well. Unfortunately for him, on the draw, turn 1 Ponder from Peter Terbergen. Demir Reanimator, his weapon of choice for the weekend. Facing down Garrick's, is it Delver?
Yeah. Is it Delver, the old top dog of Legacy? Not so much anymore. Not even really like a Delver deck anymore, as you and I were talking about off camera before the round starts. How times have changed. Demir Reanimator, sort of the boogeyman of the format when it comes to a lot of players. This is the deck that a lot of people have defaulted to, is like, hey, this is what you should be playing.
Yeah, and it's funny, right? The more things change, the more they stay the same. Demir Reanimator, the big boogeyman of like a decade and a half ago, really fell off hard, kind of went into this black-red variant, and then obviously the slew of Modern Horizon sets, and just really the new power level of stuff. We saw Grief come and go. We saw the Troll of Khazad-dûm come and go. So we know this is a deck that's been a problem now for a long time. We've seen pieces of it banned away, and we've seen a couple different variants of the Demir Reanimator deck kind of surface. We've seen a version that's really hybridized with the tempo elements, talking about like Daze, we're talking about Tameo, we're talking about Murktide Regent. That is the version that Peter chose to bring today, which makes sense to me. I've watched Peter play a lot of Magic, always plays these kinds of Delver-style decks, so it does not surprise me to see the less all-in variant, only 1 Archon of Cruelty, 1 Atraxa, and then Entombs to find it, and some Reanimates to get him back. Not going heavy on the Reanimator pieces. So very much like a hidden tempo. This isn't necessarily strict tempo versus a combo going on. A lot of tempo, and we see it started already as Dragon's Rage Chandler getting targeted with a Daze. No fight from Garrick. So, you know, a very different look from the Demir Reanimator decks that we've seen even over the last couple of years. And then Garrick, like you mentioned, is it Delver? We've seen a lot of that style deck. No more Delvers. Only Tameos, Murktides, Dragon Rage Chandlers, and a couple Brazen Borrowers to work with in the creature column.
And Peter, we're going to redeploy the island and pass the turn. Garrick with 2 Wastelands in hand.
Yeah, this island looking nice. Having to tap these Wastelands for mana, though. Corey Steelcutter, a great prize if that's your plan, is to tap your Wasteland for mana. Kind of a hidden threat, right? Like we talk about the creature column of the Is It Delver deck. There's 4 Corey Steelcutters, which we learned how that one works pretty quickly in Standard, as that one has come and gone. And now still making waves as a 4 of here in the Delver deck in Legacy.
Funny enough, if Garrick does force back, you know, he'll get to keep his Corey Steelcutter, but he won't be able to trigger it this turn with the bobble he has in hand. This will be himself for the turn. So, you know, a small consolation prize here for Peter, you know.
Pretty big. I mean, you still traded 1 for 1, right? You traded 1 for 1 on the force. So like you're not even really down on cards. And yeah, like you said, you're not getting attacked with this Corey Steelcutter. And you know, Garrick has to find a way to double spell next turn. Smartly held the bobble to really enable that in the following turn, but saved a lot of time. Even though he lost the counter fight, he's still in pretty good shape.
Yeah, swamp to play for Peter. Also, Garrick with the main deck Surgical in hand. And now I'm starting to see, we had Garrick in the backup feature match area against Dredge last round. We thought probably, you know, don't want to show that one. Garrick's is going to get run over. Dredge, you know, kind of a miserable matchup. You know, homie brought main deck Surgicals. If he's drawing them here, that's a big edge.
Yeah, huge in this matchup. It really reminds me a lot of what we used to see in Modern out of like the Is It Phoenix decks, where you would just main Surgical Extraction as like a way to cast a free spell when you to get Arclight Phoenixes back at the time. Here it's the trigger Corey Steelcutter. So just like another spell, and it's going to come up huge, as I believe that's an Entomb that's resolving.
Yep. Entomb, we're going to put something in our graveyard. It's going to be a Traxa.
Yeah, I don't have anything. Yeah, that looks like a big problem. Traxa. Ooh, what does that one do again? 7. Oh, so big. Oh, yeah. Man. You wouldn't try to reanimate that, would you? You wouldn't. Come on. You wouldn't.
Shuffle deck percent, fetch land.
Please no.
All right, so that was
okay. That was an instep Entomb. Sure.
Yeah. All right. Peter is gonna play a fetch, and then he's gonna cast Animate Dead, targeting Atraxa into Surgical.
Check this one out. Quick nod. Quick nod. Well, that's pretty good. From Peter to Bergen, and in hand. Is that an Archon in hand?
And Archon of Cruelty and Polluted Delta are the last two cards for Peter.
That is not good leftovers. So a huge blowout here for Garrick. And even though he hasn't been able to assemble any pressure, has to like what he sees in Peter Terbergen's leftovers.
Yeah. Honestly, if I'm Garrick, I might be leaving those Atraxas in the deck. They're pretty bad draws, even though I think
there's only one, so you can't even take anything. Yeah. It's only one. This is why they only play one, right? You just entomb it out. And awkward that he couldn't grab Archon. You know, obviously that one's already in hand. So the entombs might just be blank for Peter for the rest of the game, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, can reanimate Tameo, Murktide Regent. So entombs are already blank. Tough.
We'll have to see how we're gonna navigate this one as Peter. Now it looks like Garrick has drawn another Wasteland, and I think that he does Bobble and counter spells.
Yeah, I think so too. No way to trigger Corey Steelcutter. So a little bit of awkwardness. Imagine if that was a Delver Secrets, huh? Could be getting busy right now.
It would be
Take
huge.
One.
Yeah.
Grabbing Undercity Sewers. There is actually a question there of like holding fetch lands, because I think like you want to find Brainstorm, right? That's how you turn all your entombs back online, make this Archon not a bad card. Brainstorm's the best draw for Peter by a million miles. Force of Will obviously going to hit the bin. These Wastelands can actually pressure any fetch lands you decide to put in play and like make your Brainstorms worse. You really want to be able to shuffle away the stuff you find. Ponder, not Brainstorm, but not bad. Those cards don't look good to me.
It looks like some lands and some cards that aren't really that exciting right now.
Yeah, I think it's like blue cards that you'd have to like play and crack your fetch land to cast. He likes one of them. Didn't get a look at what that last one was. It's a Wasteland. Oh, here we go. Magic at its finest. This is what I love about Legacy. No lands that make colored mana for Garrick, and it's turn 6, whatever this is.
Yeah. And we see Unholy Heat, Force of Will in the hand here for Garrick, along with a Bobble. Corey Steelcutter, if we can start, chaining spells, which won't be the easiest on so few lands, we can.
Second Bobble, the nut draw here. Tameo, great pickup for Peter. So I guess the leftovers were pretty good. I thought that was a Ponder when I looked at his initial set of cards. A Tameo is a much better card here.
All right, let's see what Garrick can pick up here. Brainstorm was the draw.
Awkward. Did he have a blue card to pitch? I feel like he would have forced the Tameo.
He did not. He had Bolt, Unholy Heat. And it looks like we're seeing Garrick here just use the Bobble, even though he has no second spell, just because we need to find a land, and we think land will cantrip our way to victory / answer this Tameo.
Yeah, need to find red mana for that Unholy Heat. You cannot let this Tameo just do its thing for the rest of the game. You will lose very quickly, as I think basically anybody that's playing Legacy right now is well aware of. That Tameo card, pretty strong. Cracking the clue right away is Peter.
They're going to see the pickup for Peter.
We knew about that one, right? That was the third card from Ponder, so we powered through that. I was kind of surprised that he was wanting to draw that. I guess with a Wasteland face up, you're just like, whatever, my mana could be constrained, so the land's actually kind of good.
Yeah. We found a Polluted Delta, Unholy Heat, and Bolt in hand for Garrick. Garrick weirdly hopes that there's a counter spell so he can counter back and trigger his Corey Steelcutter.
Yeah, this Corey Steelcutter has looked anemic this game. Now, obviously, the Wasteland draw certainly a part of the equation there, but I mean, really, I really want to go back to that Force of Will from Peter where Garrick had to force back just to stick it. Kind of wonder if it was almost like pretty rough to force back from Garrick's side, because now this Corey has just been blanked for 4 turns or whatever it is at this point.
Yeah, I lost a lot of material there when that happened. Looks like Peter
land 5.
Yeah. Been wasteland a couple times this game. Wastelanded back. Doesn't matter.
Little grin from Peter. Yeah, this is a wild game. No Tamio left. Tamio of Garrick's pretty good. Still no action from Corey. Steel Cutter.
Yeah, you're seeing Garrick develop the Tamios now. When we brainstorm next turn, even if we whiff and we're unable to double spell, we'll at least have a flip Tamio.
Right. And that'll really start to move the game in Garrick's favor, even on only 2 lands. Peter drew no plays pass. He has a lot of material to work with at this point. I think 4 or 5 cards in hand. Not excited about a lot of them. Can't get a great look, but here comes Tamio rumbling into the red zone for a big whopping 0. Gonna make a clue. And Garrick. I don't.
Yeah, I think this might be a spot where Garrick's saying, "Okay, I've declared my attack."
4 blocks. Here comes Brazen Borrower, cast for the 3 mana mode, looking to block the Tamio.
All right, it looks like Garrick's gonna let it resolve because this. Well, yeah. Here's the brainstorm, and then if we fight over the brainstorm, we have the counterspell, which triggers the Corey Steel Cutter as well.
And the brainstorm just flips the Tamio, so we don't lose the Tamio, and we're just in good shape.
Yeah, so Garrick here really looking for, a red land would be the best. Just be able to, play something, kill this Brazen Borrower, trigger your Corey, and then honestly, you're, kind of strutting across the finish line at that point.
Yeah, you're kind of doing it. It's a little awkward to have to do all the triggering Corey Steel Cutter post-combat. We have another Steel Cutter, so we could actually just play a second one to trigger the first one if we're not that concerned about, like, the Brazen Borrower attacks, which I don't hate, but we can also just clear and just keep the Tamio around longer. It really depends on how much Garrick thinks he's in a rush. Do we need to close the door on this game? Garrick, I don't think, says no. We're in no rush.
Yeah, and this makes a lot of sense too, right? Like you have a Tamio over there that's going to slowly take over this game. It's also going to just buy you back material, so next turn you can do something like play Corey Steel Cutter. All right, well now you can't play Corey Steel Cutter and something like a Bolt to just like go face and kind of start closing the game out that way. So,
which might be fine. I mean, the first one's been pretty hard to trigger anyway, so the second one might not be that good, and you might be fine just waiting for a little while and sitting behind the Tamio. I think a lot of roads lead to Rome for Garrick, and really it's just about what are Peter's draws that look really good. And starting to constrain some of the mana, maybe Peter might need a lot of mana to put together a good turn. I certainly think, like I said, I think Brainstorm is still among Peter's best draws, given how things have played out. I think we are fetching Undercity Sewers. We still on Instep here? I assume we are.
I assume we are as well, but I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, the cute. With the Surveil in the stack, we're going to brainstorm, and then we can put the Archon in the graveyard that we know about in hand with the Surveil. We're just doing the cutest thing on the planet.
Yep. I mean, Surveillance just, even doing this with your brainstorm, obviously enabling the synergy is very powerful, but that in of itself is just like a pretty great, like little 1-2, especially since it turns out you do have time for Surveillance and Legacy. Not something I was super expecting in decks that didn't, use their graveyard super effectively. And you see Garrick sort of being like,
look, Garrick has identified the cute because he knew about that from the surgical extraction. So we've done the cutest thing on the planet. Oh, and then we put an underground sea on top too. So we just get to do all of the cute tricks. You see that one a lot where you put a land back that you fetch and just flip the land so you don't have to do any searching. Love it. He's done it all. And Murktide Regent, a nice follow-up here, getting the Archon and Graveyard, getting Murktide Regent started. And now, that was a high-impact turn here for Peter. I don't know if Garrick has any leftover forces he might want to fight with. We're still selecting cards that we want to get rid of, but we're putting a die on this thing. It looks like it's resolving.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised to see it resolve. I guess with Brazen Borrower in hand, you can just like pick up a blue card with your Tamio and then just bounce this Murktide and then answer it again
on the way later. Back down. Yeah, sure. And that just eats through Peter's graveyard. I mean, he has a lot of graveyard to work with, though. Yeah,
Garrett kind of uncharacteristically, I think, not thinking through the next turn when he wastelanded, making it impossible for him to. Garrett normally is someone who's really good at kind of like thinking multiple turns in advance, and he gets a little rewarded. Surgical. Yeah, we got rewarded. The surgical has a real target as Peter is now going to lose that Archon of Cruelty, and it has to show that we have a Wasteland in hand.
Wish we had like a Murktide in graveyard. Get the one out of hand. That'd be awesome. I mean, obviously Archon's still a problem no matter what, so you're fine tagging that thing. But there was some cute tricks available if we had a little bit of a different graveyard composition. Is Corey Steel Cutter now finally getting to work after being in play for many turns?
Yep, an attack here for 5. Peter down to 10. But the Murktide Regent, is very big, and Garrick doesn't have any blue cards for that force. So it's, just DRC and some red in hand. And Peter is going to play this Murktide again. Let's see if we're able to make it a
it's good.
7.
Still, it's going to be big, right?
Yeah.
Can you make it big enough to get around Unholy Heat? Like if we get Tameo big enough, can we pick it up like on Unholy Heat and get it that way? 5-5. Oh, there goes a Wasteland from Peter. So down to 1 land goes Garrick this late in the game. Only 1 left to work with.
DRC is in hand. Could do something like DRC Bobble if you want to get your cutters. Obviously, we're going to take up this Tameo. There's no other plays there. So, all right. Murktide can only hit us for 3.
That's the easy part. I think it's fine blocking. I think that one's fine doing blocking duty for a second. What are we looking at? No attacks. Well, that's actually pretty good for Peter. Got a stop sign in 1. The Tameo is still a problem, but you have a little bit of time to work through that. As Garrick's eyes go wide. Does he have any more volcanic islands in his deck? He's got to have like 1 more, right?
He's lost 3, I think. So
yeah, he's got the full 4 and a Thundering Fall. So we got some lands left. But now the Murktide gets to
attack the
Tameo, and we get to reanimate our own Tameo, and that's a big swing. Garrick on no mana.
This is massive.
Beatdowns. Surgical.
Okay, huge. Peter blocked the 2/2 prowess creature with the one that equipped to Corey, and now we're surgicaling. So that is going to kill the Tameo.
Okay, so Tameo down. Brazenbauer leaves the graveyard, which does not trigger Murktide Regent.
Yep.
And
no more borrowers, I guess, in the deck.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this all
weird sequence.
Yeah, this whole game to me goes back to the turn where Garrick wastelanded Peter's 6th land, and lost a mana source for seemingly very little gain. And now, just because that has always been kind of a mana short of triggering these steel cards again. And we see how quickly, too, they take over, right? You have 1 more monk in play, and this game is actually maybe winnable off, the right cards here. As if you hit a land, your DRC can block the Murktide.
True. I mean, that's huge. Yeah. I mean, DRC being able to block the Murktide, and we get to get busy for 3. Now, key that Peter's at 7, not 6. So 2 turns doesn't get the job done. Down to 4, you go. And there's a blocker for a turn. Oh, but we have Daze as the 1 card in hand.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, you wanted to play your DRC first so you could force, if there's any counter magic, get a prowess trigger and get your Corey Steelcutter triggers. That's going to mean Peter is basically dead on board. The DRC is going to attack in, but any spell will allow Garrick to trigger the prowesses, unless he actually forgot the Steelcutter trigger, which it looks like he did in the heat of the moment. That's massive.
Oh my God. Yeah, that whole turn, man, that was a tough turn from Garrick. Our 2024 MVP really would have liked to have seen some pre-combat action. Obviously triggering the Corey Steelcutter is huge. Like all these big key edges are giving Peter some time. I think he has an Undercity Sewers. Down goes Force of Will. Across into the red zone goes Murktide Regent. Chump blocked. Murktide Regent number 2 follow-up. One of these draw steps.
Insane. And it's also a situation too where I think Garrick, if we had just not missed our trigger, we would have a ton of live draws here.
Yeah, now I think we're sitting on not a whole lot of anything. And the shake of the head, Garrick might be dead. Peter might have gotten it. This was like a game 3. This is game number 1 between these 2 players.
Yeah, this has been totally, and the bobble would have been lethal. Yeah, and you see them kind of point to it too, like, yeah, that's on me. So Garrick let that game slip through his fingers a little bit.
I think they just talked about that extra missing token that would have been lethal. And yeah, like you said, all the way through, felt like Garrick really had the edge. And the Corey Steelcutter should have been able to close the door on the game despite its initial anemic performance. Instead, 1 miss triggers enough. Of course, 2 Murktide Regents. Let's not, forget those from Peter Terbergen. Enough to seal the game. A huge back and forth. This is the kind of legacy I love to see.
It was an exciting and crazy round. Let's check out the sideboard there as we see Garrett kind of look up to the stars, lock in. There's still two games left in this round and the rest of the tournament. Plenty of time to recover from here, Garrett. Look at the sideboard. We have 2 Consign, 2 Hydroblast, 3 Pyroblast, a Meltdown and Holy Heat, 2 Force Negation, 2 Graphic Cage, 2 Null Rod. Drake, what do you like and why?
I like the Pyroblast. That's usually your best card in these matchups. There's a reason this card's been played in so many numbers for so long. A lot of the best cards in Peter's deck are just blue cards, even though it's a Dimir Reanimator. And so Pyroblast, the immediate appealing one. Unholy Heat has some attractiveness to it too, because as you saw, Murktide Regent's a huge problem, and it's a card that can take out Murktide Regent late in the game as well. And I think also answers Archon of Cruelty is 6/6 as well. So if you need to get that one off the board, they're not great at bringing things back multiple times. Only 5 reanimation spells in the main deck for Peter, assuming he decides to keep them, but we'll get to that in a minute. It's just going to find targets. And then if you really want to hedge a little bit, I don't know about bringing both cages, but I think you could justify one. You have enough cantrips to find it, and if you play it, it's going to be good because it shuts down any and all reanimation stuff that was actually left in. That's part of the trap of this Dimir deck, is that they can bring in way too much graveyard hate, and they just board it all out, and then, congratulations, we juked. So if he just wants to leave the surgicals in, that's also a fine way because they trigger your Koi Steel Cutters and all your prowess effects and things like that. So that might just be enough, but I could see bringing in one cage, especially, like I said, if you're cutting the surgical extractions.
Checks out to me. Let's go see what Peter has in his sideboard.
This is the more interesting equation. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, so we have a couple Dothi Voidwalkers, Orcish Bowmasters, 2 Baragweights, 2 Fairy Macabre, 2 Consigned, 1 Fatal Push, 2 Force Negation, 2 Null Rods, and an Energy Flux.
Energy Flux, huh? That's an oldie but a goodie. Not good here, but wow, what a card.
Yeah.
So this is the equation, right? The sideboarding is a lot more interesting from Peter's side. How much, if any, especially now that you've seen main deck surgical extractions, of the reanimation stuff do you want to leave in? I would lean to, especially up a game, in game number 2, cutting like all of it. Let's just play a fair game. I'm on the draw. I don't really want to try to cheese. There's no real way to blow the doors off the game. Let's just play good Magic. And I would cut basically all of the reanimator stuff and get Barrow-goyfs, Dothi Voidwalkers, the Fatal Push in, the Orcish Bowmasters, all of these fair mid-rangey creatures and removal. I want all that in my deck. And, you can see from there how Garrick sideboarded, how much graveyard hate's actually in his deck. And then you can decide, maybe I actually do want a couple Entombs and, some reanimates and a threat or two in the late game. And you can leave some reanimates in without any Entomb stuff too, and just reanimate threats. This is going to be a back and forth. You're going to be trading. Your threats are going to die to lightning bolts and unholy heats. Just reanimate them. It's fine. Take 2 points. Here's my Dothi Voidwalker back. That is a fine sequence for Peter.
Yep. Garrick starting off with turn 1 Dragon Rage Channeler off of Volcanic Island into Mishra's Bauble into Surveil. We're going to bin that Pyroblast, a sign that maybe Garrick is looking for a specific type of card. In this situation, looking at his hand, it looks to be lands.
Yeah, I would expect lands. Like I said, Pyroblast is one of your best cards in your sideboard. It's a card you really want if you can afford to have it, and he cannot because he needs a second land.
All right,
Peter took a lot of thought here on his turn 1.
Yeah, I think the Pyroblast might be moving the needle for him, right? He's like, okay,
yeah, if he has a wasteland, maybe you go ahead and fire it off. Normally it's bad. The heuristic is if they put a threat into play, they get to the board on turn 1, you don't want to wasteland them. If you see a graveyarded Pyroblast, it's okay, this guy that's a good card. This guy probably doesn't have a second land. Maybe it is right to wasteland if you have it.
Yeah, and then you're kind of running the calculus of, okay, if I do this and Bobble misses 2, am I really far ahead? If Bubble hits, how far behind am I on average?
Right.
Peter also looks up Thoughtseize in his hand.
Also a fine turn 1, yeah, and that's where we're going to go. I don't hate that either. If there's cantrips and stuff and you don't see a second land, it's going to be good. Wouldn't be surprised to see Garrick Days here. That gives you a little bit of cushion if you decide to miss your land drop. Yeah, love it. Love it. Triggers your Surveil, so help you find your second land. Also, doesn't really punish you if you brick on land 2 because you just get to play land 1 again. It's a nice spot to be, and we do decide to leave on top with the Dragon Rage Channeler. Interesting.
All right.
Now rewarded for holding the bauble too. A lot of players just crack their baubles right away. Does not play around Thoughtseize if you have that card already in hand.
All right, Bottle Peter, get a little info.
Yep.
Replay Volcanic Island, and I know we have a Ponder in hand. Looks like we are going to Ponder, which I believe puts us at Delirium because we have instant artifact, land, and sorcery now.
Yeah, that'll be sorcery. That'll be type number 4. And yeah, we're going to get rattling across for 3. This is kind of the new Delver of the Is It Delver deck. No Delver Secrets in Garrick's list, despite being a Delver deck, but Dragon Rage Channeler doing a good impression.
That's how you know you're one of the goats. Even when you leave, people just still call it by your name,
Oh, yeah. I mean, just literally was just reigning supreme for a decade or more. It's, going to take a while for that name, that nomenclature for the deck to kind of phase out. It's going to take enough Zoomers or whatever the next generation's called, picking up the deck and going, why is this called Delver? None of these words are Delver. None of these cards have the word Delver on them.
Drake, you ready to feel old? A common question I get in coaching is, I heard Delver as a term, but I don't know what it means. Like
Brutal.
someone called my deck a Delver deck. And I'm like,
I was playing Cube with some folks recently, and they all had to read Vendilion Click, and that boy, the gray hair just instantly sprouted. I grew a full beard in a moment's notice. It was really rough. It was really rough for me. Tamio, great follow up for Peter.
Yeah, that's really rough here for Garrick. As we've been talking about, this card is really powerful here in Legacy.
Not a lot of time for it though, right? Like the Dragon Chase Chandler is applying enough pressure. This Tamio could reasonably be kind of mitigated by the fact that Peter's already at 13.
All right, Garrick's gonna Mystery Force into Volcanic Island. Curious to see if he has anything like Corey Steelcutter that can maybe help even close this draw quicker. Looks like we're gonna start
that
with
does a great job of it. Wow, Murktide Regent.
Yep, that is huge.
Yeah, Dragon Trade Chandler annihilated. I mean, the artifacts, getting to keep artifacts nice, but now back to a lonely 1/1, but a 6/6 added to the board for Garrick. What kind of answers we got in Peter's deck this? I know we have a single bitter triumph. Do we have anything else? Brazen Borrower, I suppose. We got 2 of those.
Yeah, I got some Brazen Borrowers.
Fatal Push from the sideboard wouldn't do it. Yeah, it's really just those 3. The 2 Brazen Borrowers. I mean, obviously your own Murktide can complicate things, but as far as direct answers, it's Brazen Borrower. How about that? Petty theft. Can't imagine we want this to happen if you're Garrick. The question is, how do we sequence? And if we're going to force, what do we pitch?
Yeah, I know we have Force and Daze in our hand, but I'm not sure we have a third blue card.
Right. So the question is Peter going to have any follow-up? And if so, is Daze actually meaningfully adding to the equation? You see him, yeah, like I said, it's really the question is what to pitch.
Yeah.
Decides to pitch the Daze. I like it. I think this Daze is pretty well expired. Get a Surveil trigger for our trouble no matter what. So we're going to do that. And we leave it. He's left all of his triggers. Just loves all of his cards on top. Always has it.
He put all the ones he wants in his deck. Just good deck building.
Wise. Yeah. Very wise. I've messed that one up once or twice myself.
Yeah, well, that's the nice part about DRC is sometimes you do deck building error and you're like, I shouldn't have this in my deck. And then you surveil and you're like, nice, out.
Yeah, see you later. Basically cut from the deck list, just gone.
Yeah. Feel that Murktide later. And it looks like Peter taking a second to think about, what do I want to do here? Maybe signaling that has a card like Ponder or Brainstorm. Probably, not Brainstorm, because you would probably just want to block and then cast it as a way to flip your Tamio. Save a lot of life,
right.
But
yeah, interesting. The Tamio on blocking duty, like you said, we could be doing some kind of trickery with the Tamio here with Brainstorm. But outside of that, a pretty weird spot. And of course, we're not even going to let him do that. We're Garrick. We got Lightning Bolts. I leave all my cards on top with DRC. Nope, never mind. We found a bad one. There goes Brazen Borrower. And Bolt's going to actually work. Peter wasn't willing to fight over the Brazen Borrower of his own. He's probably not willing to fight over this Bolt. So that one you're pretty confident is going to work. Follow-up is, can we get Delirium? Do we have Delirium? No, we're short. Creature instant.
No, the Surveil's right.
Yeah, I need a land or a sorcery here to turn the Dragon Trade Chandler online. Still not lethal if he does. It would be an attack for 9 versus an attack for 7.
All right,
artifact number 2 to the bin. Yeah, I don't hate that. Maybe we should be cutting some Corey Steelcutters in this matchup. This card has looked very expensive and difficult to get going. Obviously, it's very powerful if it does. I mean, it won game number 1, but just some awkwardness to it.
Yeah, I wonder if it's one of those things where it's like if Peter tries to go all on Baragwif stuff, if you need those Corey Steelcutters to stay in the game versus him,
Sure.
Or maybe that's how you actually hedge while having graveyard hate cards. Looks like we have Land Ponder as our.
It's like about this game. We're just getting Murktide into oblivion as we've come to know and love in all formats for Murktide Regent is legal. Ponder! Nice last one to have. That'll turn the Dragon Trade Chandler online. We'll be rumbling over for 9 and be in a precarious position for our next turn, will Peter.
All right. Surveilling from the DRC to start things off. Put the other DRC in the graveyard.
Here's the Ponder looks. See an Unholy Heat among the mix.
Seems like a pretty safe keep.
Yeah, I mean, really, threats, spells, any interaction. I mean, literally anything except lands is going to be good here. Bobble among those options as well. Got to get rid of the heat with the Surveil and lay some beatdowns. Moving through the deck. Churning is Garrick. Going to take a look at the top card.
And Garrick knows
Totally
what his top card is, so it might be even something like a Daze that he wants to have in hand immediately.
Sure. I mean, Peter now, yeah, in a spot where he might need to sequence together multiple things just to try to catch up, and Daze could be finally back online again just because Peter needs to cast so many spells. Interesting to see what he has here. Ponder to start things off. This is one of those spots where if you left like a couple entombs in, a little bit of the package, it might be good enough to get you out. I think there might be an Atraxa in hand. Oof.
Yeah, I think there is an Atraxa. I think there's also a Reanimate.
Well, that's not where those cards where you want them to be.
Yeah, I think you're in a bit of issues. Like Brazen Borrower, I guess, is probably one of your better draws this turn.
Even that only gives you a turn, right? Because you can just redeploy this Murktide after attacking for 3. It's pretty rough. Bitter Triumph is actually nice, right? Because it puts the Atraxa in the bin. That just does all you want.
Yeah, you Bitter Triumph and then like reanimate the DRC to block the opposing DRC.
All right, we didn't assemble anything. We pondered, and we picked him up after that. So a quicker game number 2 going in Garrick's favor, which means we get my favorite thing, a game number 3 between these two players.
Yep, it looks like Garrick's taking a moment to go to the bathroom. While he's going there, we're going to show off our last open event of the year before we go to our champions event. Elmhurst, Illinois, November 1st and 2nd, Saturday. Team 10K Showdown, standard, sealed, modern. Come out with your friends. We'd love to have you at that event. Whichever team wins, the whole team makes it to the champs at the end of the year. And then Sunday, 10K Modern Showdown as well. Pretty awesome. It'll be the final event. All the points will come down to the wire. The winner of that, is going to make it. It's going to be really fun to sort of see. And, I'm really excited, Drake, to sort of see, who's going to be part of the 20-ish players that we have at the end of the year for champs, and sort of, what are they going to bring? There's a lot of flex slot people we talked about before, kind of qualified already. Are all of them going to test together, or are they going to splinter off? You've played in these kind of events before too, right? Where it's like, if your team is so big, it's actually sometimes like a disadvantage if anything gets out, or like people have the right read on you, right? Because you're like half the field, for example.
Right. No, 100%. There's more availability for holes, and there's also the potential that you have someone that kind of defects and like, oh, I know what my entire team's playing. They're 25% of the event. I'm just going to make a few last minute changes. That's all, just a little one or two. And that's, we've seen that come up in kind of the higher circles with like Pro Tours and stuff, where it's like people just start playing, a bullet for the team deck. And it's like, bro, that's not cool. And so, yeah, you have to really keep it kind of tight. I think really going more than 2 or 3 players is kind of a mistake. Obviously you can cover more ground, but you generally have enough time that you don't need that kind of a workforce to get through all the formats that you need to test for. And you start to really muddy up the data as well, because none of you want to find the most like-minded people like you. And maybe like one person that kind of thinks a little differently just to challenge some of your beliefs. And that'll be a good enough testing team. Like 1 or 2 people, maybe even 3 if you really want to stretch it. But some of these testing teams can get really large. I mean, we see Flex Slot on screen right now, Garrick among the mix of that team. And, you can't imagine if all of them made it, they'd all be testing together. You need to split the team up because this is too big. It's too much.
Yeah, just such a large portion. And it's exciting too, to see that here. Let's check out the leaderboard really quickly here, as Garrick is still taking a minute. And all the names in orange are already qualified for you here. So those players are going to see at our champs for sure. I mean, Andrew Ellenbogen, somebody who's been at all of our champs, I believe, since 2022, made some deep runs, but hasn't actually made, the winning run, as it were, quite yet, despite being, easily one of the most accomplished players in our field. I mean, he's a Pro Tour champion. How much more accomplished can people get? And it just shows how
champs is harder.
Yeah, champs is harder.
Champs is harder. Come on, Pro Tour is easy. No problem.
If you won a Pro Tour but has had multiple shots at winning champs and hasn't, transitive properties would indicate that. And so, Andrew Ellenbogen just shows, though, right, like how fierce this competition can be. I'm excited to see sort of, players like Cliff, Harrison, Jake, Rodney Burdell, someone who we have in these events a lot and normally really crushes Legacy for our series here. But, just going to be a very interesting thing. You see a lot of names on the screen here that if you've been watching for a long time, then, you are very familiar with. Wilko Alchik over the last 2 years really made a name for himself. You can see Zoe Reederman, someone who's made a lot of our champs in the past. And even, the before COVID times, played all the NRG events, was always a little bit on the outside looking in. So Roger Suleiman, great bunch of names. Benjamin Ungar, someone from last year. Ryan Hayes, dominating recently as well. Will Kruger, I mean, former champ, mock champion as well. And with all those accolades done, let's go back to our feature match area as our players are dealing up. And I'm able to see them. No sideboarding. Players just sort of, we kept our decks the way they were. We like them. Let's
it's
run it for
interesting
game
from
3.
Peter's spot, right? Garrick went to the bathroom. You could maybe, make some changes, get some stuff and moving around. Maybe you get a little tricksy with it. Nah, Peter's here to play straight up Magic. Turn 1 Tamio, a great way to do it too.
Yeah, and I did see an Entomb in Peter's hand, so he may be trimmed on some of the package like you talked about, but we at least have an Entomb in our deck. So Lightning Bolt for the Tamio. Turn number 1.
Wasting no time. Yes, get that out of here. That cannot stick around. It's very much. I mean, you talk about Bolt the Bird, kind of an old adage at this point. Not a lot of Birds of Paradise running around. Bolt the Tamio, certainly a fixture of the Legacy format.
Yeah.
Doesn't have the same ring to it though.
Yeah. Bolt the Moonfolk, I don't like that much either. We need to get our best people on that.
Yeah. We'll assemble a team. We'll get something cooked up by champs. Back to Peter we go. Needs to have a nice follow-up. Kind of the awkwardness too of fetching Island on 1 is if you do want to do some explosive like Entomb reanimate in the same turn stuff, you can't, right? You need 2 black for that. Island doesn't produce that. And so there is a cost here to fetching around Wasteland, but as we saw in game number 1, being able to fetch around Wasteland was actually a pretty big game, as here comes the Undercity Sewers. That one has high upside, could potentially hit some of the big creatures, but a lot of thought here, so can't imagine we're looking at anything with converted mana cost greater than 7.
Left it on top. Garrick's got some dazes in hand. Gonna play Cage.
Yeah, I like it. I like bringing in 1 or 2, especially in game number 2 when you saw you said they made no changes for game 3, but like after you've seen that they leave some reanimator stuff in, I certainly don't hate the Grafdigger's Cage.
Yeah. It looks like we're gonna fetch with Delta. This is a card that used to see a ton of modern play. And it's not even that it's bad in modern. Like there's still some times where this card's quite good. It's just there's a lot more options now, so it doesn't always make the cut.
It was really awkward for a while. This card didn't stop anything from libraries because there's like live again stuff, and it reads like live again's like, okay, we're bringing stuff back from the graveyard. You're casting stuff from the library. Surely this has to do something, and then it just doesn't. It actually is just blank against live again. So that was an awkwardness in modern for a while. But this card really kind of famous for being, I'm a graveyard deck and I want graveyard hate. So this is what I'm going to play, and that's very much kind of Garrick's position. We saw how important his graveyard is with Murktides and DRCs and all that stuff. Grafdigger's Cage, a nice one to bring in here that does stop your opponent, doesn't interact with your graveyard.
Also, all-timer art, by the way. I think it goes underappreciated. The coffin in the cage just goes hard.
Really it's got to stay dead. It really sends home the message of this thing just keeps coming back. That has to stop.
All right, Peter here with a brainstorm to start the turn. The cage in play makes that Entomb a lot less interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the Tamio in play, I think, is really the more potent threat for Teeter at the moment. Again, the card that just threatens to snowball the game, especially in a spot like this where neither player has any pressure going. So really needs to find an answer to that. Thoughtseize not among the cards that interact with it once it's already going. But, certainly you have some high upside a lot of the time with Brainstorms to just find, a combo kill right out of the box. Grafdigger's Cage turns all of that off. So clearly looking for some of the interactive pieces. Doesn't seem that thrilled with what he's looking at, does Peter Tuberkin, though.
All right, we're going to fetch. Looks like we've left a couple Force Wills in our hand and this Thoughtseize that we're going to cast off this Underground Sea. Looks like
a classic case here of Thoughtseize not that good against card advantage engines.
Yep. Ponder, Pyroblast, DRC, Daze are the leftovers here for Garrick.
Some good ones. Those are some nice cards to be looking at. Well, if you're Garrick, if you're Peter, there's multiple cards you want to take here.
Yeah, they're nice ones to look at in the sense of, my Thoughtseize is going to be good, but will it be good enough is the real question here. As Peter just figure out how he's going to kind of cut something out of his hand and then navigate the game here. A couple different routes depending on what's in his hand.
And Daze is an awkward one to be looking at, too, because if you're going to do something else with that extra mana you have lying around, you now have to consider, okay, well, is it going to get Daze? And then do I have to take the Daze? Like, obviously, you want to take a more powerful card like Pyroblast, DRC also kind of in that consideration. But, now that you know about Daze, okay, maybe I can just play around it for the rest of the game. But, okay, is giving my opponent a sphere of resistance for the rest of the game for just me worth trying to just play around this Daze? So there's some awkwardness when you're Thoughtseizing and looking at a Daze this late in the game that still could have some targets.
All right, Tamir is attacking in, getting a clue.
Attacking for the big 0. Boom. True Ophidian homage, as here comes DRC. Gonna get Force of Willed. Needs time, does Peterson. Clearly worth it. I like this actually quite a bit from Peter. Just saying, hey, I can't take more threats. You already have a really good threat. I need to stymie the bleeding here a little bit. Follow up.
I mean, if Garrick has a Ponder.
Yeah, we do know about that. Kind of weird.
I think holding it's really nice. You can maybe flip your Tameo next turn with a land.
And you're not really looking for much that you can play this turn. Like, you're just looking for threats. So, like, what's the rush?
Yeah. I guess you could argue maybe Wasteland is a card that's tempting Garrick here, where he's like, okay, I have this daze.
So sure. Yeah, you have the daze to turn. Yep.
Yeah, so that could be where Garrick's mind's going. It's like, okay, I kind of, my mana's a little spoken for, and I have a couple hits that sort of bingo me. Looks like we got 3 cards that are pretty nice all on top of the deck there, but we're not the ones who are winning. Brazen Bar was among them.
Yeah, not a lot of stuff to turn up the heat. Like, if your plan is I want to find threats for next turn, maybe a Wasteland this turn, really set up a nice Ponder, you're just kind of looking at just kind of overcosted stuff. And it's not that exciting. So went ahead and shuffled. You got to use our mana efficiently, which is certainly appealing. And back to Peter we go. Has a lot of mana to work with. Knows about a daze.
Looks like 2 mana. Murktide.
Well, that's one heck of a follow-up here that we get to play around days. Unfortunately, only a 6/6. And with Delirium Online, it was a little vulnerable to Unholy Heat.
We're going to pick this card up. It's a little stuck there on the table.
Yeah, struggling with the sleeves here a little bit is Garrick.
Mr. Rainforest Land for turn, our own Murktide. Is it bigger? I think it is.
Well, it's forced. Is what it is. It's in the graveyard is where it's going, says Peter. Done a good job really prioritizing Force of Willing the threats from Garrick, really identifying that the Izzet Delver deck can really spin its wheels if you just kind of check its threats, and especially with Core Steel Cutter really starting to expire as far as having any spells to chain together for Garrick late in this game. Even with Tameo, right? Like, now Tameo's stop sign. We don't have the card advantage that you'd expect from that. Just like kind of got stalled out with the Tameo, and now the Murktide Regent's battling over for a third of Garrick's life total.
All right, Peter with the land. Garrick in the fetch. Does Garrick have any Thundering Falls? Any surveilling?
Yeah, he's got a little bit of action. There it is.
All right.
Gotta have one. Come on. In this day and age, have you played with these things? You heard of these things?
Yeah, oh my God. I just imagine telling us in 2020, Drake, that, we're going to put a couple tap lands in our legacy decks. You can convince me. They just have to be good. I played in the temple era. Temples were playable in modern before they printed surveil lands. Come on. I'm a temple believer. And these things are quite better. Bolt this Murktide.
Well, that'll do it. That'll do it.
All right. Garrick throws his card, doesn't need it after that great draw. And now Peter is facing down just this Tameo. Has his own surveil lane he can go grab. But wow, yeah, I mean, this Tameo might run away with the game. Even drawing lands here isn't the end of the world as long as you flip the Tameo.
Right, exactly. I mean, willing to go card disadvantage, especially with Peter Force of Willing a bunch of times, you're fine double bolting. And that's really the downside, again, to like 6/6 Murktides. Obviously, normally the equation is Unholy Heat. That card just cleans it up, and then that's no good. Double bolt, also, in that same vein, as Reanimate going to hit the bin. That one, not that good. Reanimating a 3/3 Murktide and taking 7 isn't very attractive. Push the draw? Whoa. Oh, there's also a Grafter's Cage, so Reanimate, very bad. But yeah, Push is an insane draw there for Peter. Look at the smile. Never didn't have it. Crack a clue for Garrick.
Force of Will, one of the draw steps there.
Okay. Still live.
Yeah, that daze that's been in our hand is easy peasy.
Yeah, get rid of that thing. Blue card drawn. Get a good look.
I'm curious, how much Garrick just wants to hold material and try and find something like a Corey Steel Cutter.
Sure.
Corey will take him out of the box very quickly. Yeah.
I think this is a surgical in hand. Kind of redundant with the cage. Unless maybe you just want to surgical Murktides and just be like, I don't want to deal with that. But I think there's only 2 in this deck. And he knows that from previous surgicals.
Yeah, I imagine we might do something like Surgical of Force of Will on the turn we're going to play a big threat and sort of just, clear that out of the way, etc.
Right.
Is a Tameo in the yard for Peter? This game did start with Peter going turn 1 Tameo. That could be a good one to Surgical.
Yeah, especially because I think he just drew one. Yeah, he found one off the ponder. And there's a Tameo. Does Garrick want to move on that? Says no. Yeah, I got a bolt in hand there. We just got to look at. Pulled that one to the front pretty quick. And a DRC follow-up. Nice follow-up there. Or rather, one you want to play first, so that way you get the surveil trigger. Boom.
4th bolt here for Garrick.
Sometimes you draw all 4. That's why lightning bolt's so good. Brainstorming response to Flip Tameo. No, thank you, says Garrick. Okay. All right. Well, second surveil. I think we might have left it on top.
Yeah, we left it on top. And this tells me that's some sort of threat, probably.
Ponder off the top we knew about from the previous Ponder. That was a good 3 cards. Thoughtseize among the mix. Can't get a good look. It's like land Thoughtseize something else.
Yeah,
something else is good. We're shuffling. Yeah. Gotta go.
Right,
back and forth here.
Yeah, Beargore's 4 mana, right?
I think it's 3.
Is it?
I think it's 3.
I'm pretty sure a Daze got pitched to the Force. Now, pretty sure Garrick also has a second Daze that we picked up, but Beargoyf is probably a card Peter's thinking about wanting to rip here.
Yeah, that'd be a nice one. Assuming they're in his deck. We haven't seen a lot of that one. Yeah, look at that. 3. That's a nice one. Death Touch Lifelink, so big. Thoughtseize you. Not quite a Beargoyf, but yeah, look at that thing. Gets back some cards. Oh, there's the other Daze we know about now. And Surgical. Both these cards kind of blank. You see Peter just kind of shrug. Like, yeah, these cards aren't good. Yeah, Beargoyf would be a great one here.
I guess another option with Surgical is you can use it to shuffle the top of your deck with Brainstorm.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Brainstorm off the top. I guess I think Garrick knew about that one from the surveils and taking another surveil. This is part of the power of Dragon Rage Channeler, man. Just sets up every draw step to be good.
Mm-hmm.
And likes what he saw there. That's an Unholy Heat. That's a big one.
Yeah, Unholy Heat, another Brainstorm and a land. Yeah, you can put whatever you don't like on top.
Power through. Yeah. Surveil it away.
Yep. All right. She's going to pass.
Removal spell is probably the best draws for Temurgon because, again, something that can't be removed. You just take care of the DRC and you're kind of back at parity a little bit. Obviously, Garrick's ahead. He's got more cards in hand thanks to the Tameo clues. But some of them are starting to look kind of bad. Although he might just die to this DRC. Down to 2 is Peter Temurgon. Did we draw anything? No. Land, and it looks like some blue card that does not answer Dragon Rage shows. So we just die. Both cages in his deck for Garrick. What an end to the game. Kind of anticlimactic given the back and forth we got to see all match long between both these players and both of these decks.
Yeah, and this is one of the things about Legacy that we were talking about in like round number 1, right? Is the games actually go pretty long and they're pretty interactive and players there is this dynamic and eventually something sticks and takes over the game. That one did feel a little anticlimactic, but a lot of really interesting spots there. We actually see Peter sideboarding face up here. But let's go talk to Garrick as Garrick is in our future SMC area. Congratulations on 2-0. How are you feeling, Garrick?
Pretty good. Just need to play a little bit tighter, but
Legacy, it's fun. Having a great time.
So you play a lot of Legacy then? Are you a Legacy master of sorts?
I'm not a Legacy master, but I do play in my fun time.
we have some every Tuesday we show up. It's always a great time. Legacy.
So is this your second protocol? Can you maybe borrow positioning? Where are we at?
This is my Legacy. Expressive iteration is a card. Please bring it back, of course. I would love that. I know it's broken. I know.
No, it's fine. Don't. It's totally fine. But that's the big question, right? Is the Dimir deck is kind of all over the place. Peter Temurgon, obviously a formidable opponent on the Dimir deck himself, and that's kind of one of the big other decks that does play a little Delver-like. The Is It Delver deck no longer having Delvers, as we see featured in your list. So walk me through. How do you feel about your matchup? How do you feel about you just going to play Is It Delvers as what it is, or do you actually feel like you have an edge in the Dimir matchup as kind of we saw in that matchup?
I think the Is It Delver deck is really good against everything else. It has a really hard time actually against the Reanimator package, because usually even if you don't do an Archon or a Trax, just reanimating anything is really, really good. So actually, I decided to main deck 2 Surgical Extractions, which is kind of off edge just to hammer that matchup. So it's not great, but the Surgicals are pretty good there.
I imagine Surgicals will help for round 1. We had you in the backup feature match here. We didn't get to actually see, but we knew you were playing against Dredge, and so I imagine a little really moment from your opponent when you Surgical them. But
Yeah. It was pretty funny actually. He was like, "Wow, main deck." I was like, "I have to. Do you not see what's happening in this format?"
No, super heads up, and that's something really I wanted to highlight. Is I mentioned on the broadcast that we saw that a little bit way back in the day in Modern with like the Arclight Phoenix decks, where they wanted to just trigger their Arclight Phoenix and here's a free spell to do it. And sometimes it has targets, sometimes it blows out my graveyard opponents. Here, I mean, there's so much graveyard stuff going on. It almost feels like one of those things you look at the deck list like, oh, of course you do this. You know, triggers your Quarry Steelcutter, triggers everything, and then also you just get to get your Reanimator opponents. And that, I mean, that came up. And obviously you played against Dredge as well. Super rewarded for that decision, and I really want to give you props on that. Really heads up for the weekend.
Appreciate it.
All right, Garrick. Well, thank you for taking some time to talk to us. I'm sure we'll be seeing more of you this weekend and in Elmhurst on November 1st and 2nd. But we're going to give you a little bit of a break as we set up our feature match area for round number 3.
Thanks, guys. Take it easy.
Later.
Thanks, Garrick.
It's good to talk to Garrick. Yeah, I like Garrick too. Like you can tell he's a competitor. You can tell he's fierce because the first thing he's talking about as soon as he's away from the table is, "I gotta play better." Right?
Yeah, I gotta play better.
Yeah, he's like I 3-0'd that round, you know, but it's a 2-1. And so, congratulations to Garrick. Glad to see the tie. I'm glad to see too, not the mental boom, right, Drake? We've been there before. You play so bad, you're on camera, you throw the game away. It's like it's not even. It's not like, oh, maybe I'll talk to my friends. We messed up, but
no question. Yeah.
Won the game still. Love to see it. We're going to take a quick break as round number 3 is just about to start. That was one of the last matches going on, and we'll be back with more action here in just a few minutes.